what is your outlook for Bitcoin then? Because earlier you told me that you don't see any existential threats to it. So where do you see it going?
I think Bitcoin is, again, the dominant digital monetary network. And that means that you can expect first thousands and then tens of thousands and then hundreds of thousands of corporations to plug into it. And we should have 250 million people that hold Bitcoin by the end of the year. So I expect 1 billion people within 5 years, and I expect 5 billion people within a decade or so. I think that there'll be 5 billion people or more with mobile wallets, with digital currency and digital assets, and Bitcoin will become the global settlement network and the global synchronization network for all of them. What Bitcoin does is it allows you to establish a trusted relationship with a counterparty, and that means, there's a phrase, the secret to a successful relationship is shared values. And that's the truth with two people, and it's the truth with two companies or two countries. So shared values requires a value network. And so Bitcoin is a shared value network. And I can say, for example, that in 20 years of trying, there's no way that my company could do business in Nigeria. There's no way that a bank in the US can trade easily with a bank in Nigeria or Lebanon or Iraq or between Nigeria or Zimbabwe and Argentina, because of the difficulty of establishing trust in the fiat monetary system. So when you establish a digital monetary system, you can establish trust of value in 24 hours. And so what I think will happen is I think we're going to see an explosion of billions of people doing tens of billions of transactions on layer 2's applications that are all synchronized with the protocol of Bitcoin as the layer 1. And I think Bitcoin will just continue to grow as an asset class. It'll be the underlying asset that's used to establish trust across all of these counterparties everywhere in the world in the 21st century.
So what does that mean for the price of Bitcoin? What is your projection there?
Over time, it will go up.
Yes, I got that. How high? Care to give me some kind of number? Yeah.
I think that if you look at the $500 trillion monetary planet and the $1 trillion, crypto asset fire burning in the core, you can expect that will continue to expand. It's been expanding pretty rapidly. I think it'll continue to expand as it absorbs the monetary energy of the other store of value assets. So it should slurp all of the energy out of, or large portions of the energy out of the precious metals and then out of monetary indexes and broad money equity ETFs. And so there's no reason why it shouldn't go from $1 trillion to 10 trillion to 100 trillion. Over what time frame? I'm not a trader, so I don't guess by the week, by the month, even by the quarter. I mean, for me, a decade, is a target. And I'm expecting that this thing will just continue to grow forever, for my lifetime. I don't see any reason why it won't stop growing, because it's for the first time in the human race's history, and first time in 5,000 years, we figured out how to create digital scarcity on an open network. That's a one-time invention, and the protocol itself is like as profound as English or Arabic numerals. It's like once you've got a way to do arithmetic with Arabic numerals, how long will that go? Well, long time. 400 years so far, I guess, in the Western world has been going. So I don't know why this won't just continue to grow for hundreds and hundreds of years as a protocol.
You mentioned ETFs and you mentioned scarcity. And we could be seeing Bitcoin's ETFs approved in the US. And there is some argument that with the Bitcoin ETFs, you'll have more Bitcoin derivatives, a bigger Bitcoin's futures market, and that could ultimately create paper Bitcoin, which could take away from the scarcity of the Bitcoin market. Do you see that happening? I mean, what is your outlook on the impact of potential Bitcoin ETFs and Bitcoin derivatives being approved?
I think it's natural that that you're going to see Bitcoin is the solution to everybody's problem. The big tech companies need an open monetary network to build the next generation of products. So like Square Cash, PayPal, eventually Apple, Google, Facebook, they have to build Bitcoin into their mobile wallets because they need this universal digital asset on a protocol, on a global network. All the finance companies, the insurance companies, the fund companies, et cetera, they need to build Bitcoin into their finance products. So if you have a savings account without Bitcoin in it, right, the Bitcoin savings account yields 160% a year for a decade, and the other conventional bank savings accounts yield 15 basis points. So it's pretty clear that if you don't have a savings account with Bitcoin built into it, all the assets are going to flow out of your bank. If you're Fidelity or PEMCO and you have mutual funds, you're going to build Bitcoin into your funds. The ETF is the plain vanilla. So Fidelity's filed for a Bitcoin ETF, as have like 8 other entities. But, why wouldn't you build Bitcoin into your bond fund? If you look at the performance of bond funds, they're hideous over the last decade and especially over the past year. If you look at all treasury funds, all treasury applications, if you have a monetary inflation rate of 15% to 20% a year, and we have that right now, and if the treasury yield on most of these funds is 1%, 2%, 3%, you have a negative real yield of 15%. So you've got a negative real yield on all the cash instruments and all the bond funds that is -10 to -15% or more. So as a matter of preservation, I think that the solution is you put Bitcoin into the bond fund, you put Bitcoin into the mutual fund, you put Bitcoin into the bank, you put Bitcoin into the mobile app. If you're an insurance company, I'm going to sell you life insurance. I'm going to take your premiums. I'm going to invest them in a swap. A 30-year swap yields, let's think about it right now, 220 basis points, maybe? Yeah, 2.2% interest. That's what I'm going to get. Now, if I invested those premiums in something that yielded 20% interest, presumably the cost of your insurance policy goes down by a factor of 10. Well, Bitcoin's been running a lot more than 20%. So what if I told you I can give you a life insurance policy which costs you 1/20th of your current one? Or what if I told you I'll give you a life insurance policy that pays off 25x more than your current one? Presumably, I'm going to obliterate every life insurance policy, every insurance policy in the world. So the insurance companies are going to want to build a thermodynamically sound asset, a deflationary appreciating asset into insurance, just like the banks need it. Just like if you're going to lend or securitize against it, you want good liquid collateral. Bitcoin's the best collateral you could imagine. So I'm not concerned that it's a negative. I think that it's scratching the surface. Like the Bitcoin ETF will come along. It's one derivative. There's going to be hundreds of derivatives that'll be built on top of Bitcoin. Bitcoin is like base layer, the layer 1 of the money, and the layer 2, the scalability for the civilization, it won't come from Bitcoin because Bitcoin is it's capped at 350,000 transactions a day. Now you could say, the critics say 350,000 transactions, that's not fast enough to be a currency. Correct. It's not fast enough. Well, if I could move an aircraft carrier every 150 milliseconds for the rest of your life, and I could teleport it anywhere on Earth, it'd be fast enough to win a war. If I could move all of Manhattan 7 times a second anywhere in the universe, that'd be pretty powerful. So what Bitcoin is a settlement network to move blocks of $1 billion of energy 7 times a second between PayPal and Amazon and Google and Facebook and JP Morgan and Fidelity and Zimbabwe and the government of Turkey, right? And the government of Japan and the Bank of China. That's what that is. And it scales because we go from moving 100 million to 1 billion to 10 billion to 100 billion. If I told you I can move all of San Francisco in 130 milliseconds anywhere in the universe, well, you would think that's pretty cool. But if I said to you, oh, I've only got 7 transactions a second, Visa runs fast, you say, well, that's pretty crappy. It's just a question of what you're moving. So when you think about it like that, what you see is the settlement network is the granite upon which you build the 21st century economy. The application layer is PayPal and Google and Apple Pay and Amazon Pay and Fidelity and your life insurance policy and the ETF and maybe it's like the city of New York borrows $10 billion, buys Bitcoin and eliminates taxes forever to the benefit of everybody in New York. That's a derivative, right? That's right. They could do that. Turkey could go and they could buy $5 billion of Bitcoin in their central bank treasury, and then that would be worth 50 billion over the next 5 years. And they could strengthen their currency, and 50 million people in Turkey would in essence have a Turkish lira, which is a derivative of Bitcoin. So you're thinking about, how does the world scale, right? How do you scale this thing? Most people, they get it wrong. They think, well, it's got to scale on the base layer. They're just tragically uninformed. We don't need to scale on the base layer. You want to fix your country, like Nigeria or Zimbabwe? The way you fix your country is you buy $2 billion, $3 billion worth of Bitcoin, and you issue currency backed by the Bitcoin. That is the Bitcoin standard. And every one of your citizens stops starving to death, and they live a decent life. So I think that you're going to see that everywhere. Right? And it's a race. Well, who's the kingmaker? Bitcoin's the kingmaker. If Facebook adopts Bitcoin before Apple, it's good for Facebook. If Facebook doesn't, it's good for PayPal. If PayPal doesn't, it's good for Square. If Apple does, it's bad for Google. Right? So there's going to be a battle between big tech. There's going to be a battle between Fidelity and PIMCO. Which fund company? There's going to be a battle between the insurance companies. Who do you want? The insurance company that gives you, like, what if I just collected $1,000 once and the life policy was free, no premiums for the rest of your life? Wouldn't I want that one, the free one? Right? So in every single industry, the way that you win is you adopt a thermodynamically sound monetary network as the underpinning. You're going to build Manhattan, build it on granite. What is Bitcoin? Bitcoin is granite in cyberspace, right? It's the most stable property in cyberspace.